Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. I'm Safiyyah, your host. For the first time ever, New York City has elected a Muslim mayor. Zohran Mamdani is only 34 years old. He ran on a platform of democratic socialism, and he won by a large margin. We're going to be reflecting on his victory today and what it means for Muslims, for New York City, and for people at large. With me is Dr. Shabir. Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Pleasure to be on.
I'm so excited, Dr. Shabir, by this win, and I think a lot of people are. His campaign defied expectations. You know, he ran as openly as a Muslim. He put his values out for the world to see. He spoke about Palestinian rights. He spoke about justice. And yet he won. And surprisingly, he was supported. 33% of Jewish voters elected him in. So there's so many surprises in this election. I just wanted to get your thoughts. I wanted to talk a little bit about what this means for everyone.
Yeah, I think what it means for everyone, Safiyyah, is that if you stand for good principles, that could resonate well with a large segment of the population. He came across as being very genuine. He stated his principles openly. He did not hide. And one of the interesting things about him is that he did not try to camouflage his identity as an individual. He was who he was, of Indian origin, South African and East African background. And some of his campaign ads are actually humorous to.
Did you watch some of them?
Well, I saw one. I saw one of them in which he incorporated a clip from a movie featuring the iconic Amitabh Bachchan.
Mm-hmm.
And I've read reviews that say that he also incorporated a theme song from one of the Bollywood movies, Dhoom Machale, which means something like let's have a blast, And in the clip that I saw, I mean the one ad that I saw, he makes moves like the Indian movie stars, the way they dramatize their songs and so on. That I think resonated with a large section of the population, people who are brown like him, and they saw that, yes, they could actually put a person in office who would stand for the good principles, not because he's brown or because he's Muslim, but think about the major changes that he wants to implement. He wants to have the government run a grocery store in every district so that that will cause a lowering of prices in general. He wants to put a cap on rent increases. He wants to have minimum wage raised to $30 per hour in a few years. So with policies like this, naturally he appealed to the common person on the ground. Whether Muslim or others, they could all feel that that's something that's relevant to them.
Mm-hmm. You say naturally, Dr. Shabir, but when I think about politics, it's very unlikely for people like that on that sort of platform to get elected. And it's easy to be disillusioned and to think, okay, politics is about interest, it's about, money and power. But in this case, somehow, despite all odds, he won. And he had so many volunteers. He had 100,000 volunteers. And many people were giving $10, little amounts. So he had widespread support, not just from, as you said, brown people or Muslims, but all sorts of people, a whole wide spectrum of society.
Exactly.
And it's very hopeful. It makes you feel very happy, just as like an ordinary person, to see that good could kind of come out on the top,
Yeah. So, Safiyyah, every good comes about, as you know, by the grace of God. So when we think about the odds, we can see the hand of God, being with this candidate. And, you spoke about the support of the common folks, but, we know that he didn't get support from the top. He was actually opposed and criticized.
Yes.
Even down to the end, which is rather childish, even after he won the elections, you would expect that now there will be full support and backing for the new person who has been elected, but no. But he still maintained his composure in the light of such
and
criticism.
Dr. Shabir, it's so interesting. Like it feels like the politics of division, it kind of died in this election because his opponents kept coming forward and saying, all the usual stuff that people say about any Muslim running for office, anti-Semitic or like supporting jihad, supporting terrorism, things like that, everything.
Yeah, even linking him with 9/11, he would have been like, just a little kid at that time,
Exactly.
Right? The politics of division certainly is a problem. And, social media, we know, can be used for, good or bad purposes. And people sometimes use it for bad purposes, denouncing a candidate and, committing libel against innocent and decent folks. But despite all of that, we are, pleased that this has happened. What it means for Muslims in particular is that, the landscape of the world is there available for Muslims. And the things may seem difficult at times. Things are especially difficult now in America for Muslims. But despite all of that, there is a silver lining. There are still some positives to be capitalized upon. And we see that Mamdani, did not just focus on the negatives. He saw the opening. He ran for mayor, and he was successful at that. That should be a source of inspiration to young Muslims in America and elsewhere when we see his success story.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to compromise your values to be able to succeed, Dr. Shabir.
Exactly.
We wish him all the best, and we want to see those campaign promises materialize, of course, because that will be the true test of leadership.
Yes, and of course, in the end, Muslims support not. We will support a candidate not because he's one of us, or he looks like us, or sings like us, or watches the same movies, but because he stands for good, and we will support him in anything that is good. When Abu Bakr, may God be pleased with him, is said to have risen to the caliphate, the summary of his speech is that, if I do something good, then support me in that. If I do something wrong, then correct me in that. So that should be our attitude towards all leaders. And that should be the self-owned policy of leaders as well. And we wish that more leaders around the world would have that similar policy to that adopted by Abu Bakr.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Shabir, just on a final note, just because he's a Muslim doesn't mean we would necessarily have to agree with all his positions, right?
Yeah, that's true, because there are many different sects and followings in Islam, and then even within the same sect or following, you have different interpretations. People have different understandings of what it means to be a Muslim. We look at the overall, pluses and minuses, and then we say, okay, overall, this is good, and or overall, something else is bad. And I think overall, this is definitely very good and positive.
All right. Thank you for that, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Muslim Media Hub, the new home of Let the Quran Speak.
Here we spread positivity and good. We help people experience the beauty of Islam and help them appreciate and understand Muslims.
This beautiful building we purchased at cost $2.3 million.
Yeah, we've already raised a third of that money, and with your help, inshallah, we can pay off the rest.
So we're looking for people who can give $1,000 each. If you can be part of the select group, that's amazing.
Otherwise, just please give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
It's our collective responsibility to share the message of Islam with our fellow human beings. Please help us continue this good work.
It's a sadaqah jariyah, something that will continue to be a benefit to the Muslim community long after Safiyyah and I are gone.
Please support our work at muslimmediahub.com.
Your support is zakat eligible and tax deductible.
May Allah bless you and your loved ones today and always. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.